Okay, well it's 8:30 and here we are, fresh on a Monday morning. I'm actually going to call it today Mildew Monday, and you'll find out in a minute why this ramble is called Mildew Monday. But just a quick location here, let you know where we are in the vineyard. So if I turn this way, we are looking towards Perpignan and Tuchan. So Tuchan is about 10 minutes down here, and Perpignan behind that, and the Roussillon. Let's turn around a little bit, and you can just see the rocks over there. So behind the rocks, that's the Mediterranean. So I'm actually facing south, about 10 minutes from the village of Tuchan. If I turn around, I'm actually in a tiny little vineyard here. And turn around here, and you can see the steep little path going up the road here, and that would be in the sort of Narbonne direction here. So on towards the Languedoc down there, and then up here we're just at the bottom of the Tuchan mountain. So the wonderful Tuchan mountain that rises up to about 900 meters behind me, the lovely limestone Tuchan behind me. And just panning right round, and look at these lovely little vines. But it's all not that rosy in the vineyard this morning, and I thought I'd bring you in. As I mentioned, I'm going to do a bit of a mildew special, just to reassure you we haven't had a severe outbreak of mildew, but we do have several sort of blotches of it, so it is present. And basically the weather down here, it's about 12 degrees at the moment, but more seriously, it actually rained. We had another 17 millimeters of rain over the weekend. So we just cannot shake off this really damp, wet weather. And that just means one thing in the vineyards. That means mildew. So I thought I'd take you with me, and we're going to do basically what myself and Jean-Marc are doing at the moment, and that is we're just walking through the vineyards, and we're just trying to estimate a bit if there's any damage, or just take a look. So let's do the little emoji competition. I think the first person to put up, no, I hope you're all awake this Monday morning, to put up 4 eyes followed by 4 mushrooms. So 4 eyes followed by 4 mushrooms. Hi Mum and Dad, you made it. 4 eyes followed by 4 mushrooms to win a sachet of lovely dried organic rosemary from my vineyards. So 4 eyes and 4 mushrooms, and that's because you're out with me this morning, and we're going to be looking for traces of mildew here. So we need eyes, and it's a fungal disease. So eyes and mushrooms. Yeah, Steve, congratulations. Oh, there, one big eye. Big eye and 4, that's fantastic. Okay, let's have a look. So we're actually in my hairy Grenache vineyard. So this is the LLEDONER PELUT vineyard. So if we take a look at one of the leaves, you can see it really looks like Grenache. See, round, smooth, almost shiny, waxy. You can see we've actually managed to protect this vine. We'll come on to what's actually on the leaf in a minute. And if we turn it over, okay, so that one, it's got very fine hairs on it. Have a look. This one is actually more a Grenache, so not a hairy Grenache. So this is a mixture of Grenache and LLEDONER PELUT. Okay, right. And then the neighbouring vine here, so you can see this is just next door, and then you come on to the neighbouring vine here, and you can see that again the same shaped leaf. Turn it over, and it's got fine little hairs. So that is the hairy Grenache. You can see that. So here we are. This is majority hairy Grenache, but what we're looking for today, it's not actually hairy Grenache, it's this. And I'm just looking at this, so I just want to show you. So this is, can you see this here? That is a trace of mildew. So basically it starts as like a yellow spot, almost like an oil spot, a spot of oil. It then sort of spreads, and as it dries out, it goes brown. It's basically killing the leaf. You see that? That's really crispy brown. If you turn it over on the back, oops, it's white. Okay, so you've got white. These are actually the spores. So the life cycle, basically, it starts, the spores are the droplet on the leaf here. It then grows spores on the back, and it's these spores that are then transported by rain, so they need moisture and the wind, and that's what spreads the disease. So you can see here, it looks awful, but if you look at the overall, you see that? If you look at the overall vine here, it's just 1 or 2 spots in the whole vine. So it's not a disaster. It hasn't, let's have a look before I say it hasn't reached the grapes. Look down here. Oops. So you can see here the grapes still really, really healthy, not affected at all by the mildew. You can see they're lovely, and they're at what I call the green pea stage. So these are now the grapes where they are going to form here, where they're actually forming. That's the little young grapes that will now ripen. So that's the hairy Grenache. There's some more down here. So you can see, oh, and like just looking in here, if you've got your eyes with me on this, did anybody see that? You can see another spot of mildew here. But at the moment, this is not too worrying because it hasn't spread too far. And then you start looking and you think, oh shit, actually, there's another bit. But it's not, you know, when you look at the vine, it looks, whoops, I'm caught up, looks lovely and green. Okay, and then just, oh, there's a bit of lovely sunshine just on its way out here. So also, let's keep looking at the vines to see what we can see. You can see the terroir, it's nice clay, and there's some bits of limestone, so it's a brilliant terroir here for the vines. But what I wanted to just mention was, like, how do you actually treat for mildew? So it's really difficult. You can't cure it. So once you've got it, these like spots that we have occasionally on our vines, you can't, oh, there's one, you see? There. So you can't get rid of that now, but what you have to do is you have to protect the vine to prevent any other outbreaks or to prevent that spreading. And to do that, we use, it's actually copper sulfate and a lime mixture, and it's known as Bordeaux Mixture. So Bordeaux Mixture, or in French it's Bouillie Bordelaise. So brie, another horrible word to say in French, but if you just say oui, as in oui, and then put a B in the middle, so Bouillie Bordelaise. That is a mixture, so it's copper sulfate and lime, and it's about 1.5 kilos of copper sulfate to 1.5 kilos of lime mixed in with 100 litres of water. And that's what farmers have been using for years. Literally, it's back to 1855 that this mixture was discovered. And as the name mentions, it was discovered in the Bordeaux vineyards. And I read this. I'm not sure if it's true. Can anybody confirm this story? But when I read the story, it said that they discovered the Bordeaux mixture. It was a Professor Millardet who discovered it, basically because he saw that the vines on the edge of the roads didn't have any mildew. And he wondered why. Why was it that the vines on the edge of the vineyards didn't have mildew, but the ones in the middle of the vineyards did have mildew? And in actual fact, he found out that the farmers were spraying the ones on the edge of the vines with this copper sulfate solution to stop passers-by eating the grapes. So that was how it discovered. He did tests from that in about 1855. And from 1855, farmers started using Bouillie Bordelaise or Bordeaux mixture on all of the vines. So I'd be really interested to know, does anybody know if that is correct, or is that how it was discovered? I think it's a lovely story. And a question here from Matt, I can say, how would you spray? Which brings me nicely on to how would we actually get the mixture, the Bordeaux mixture, onto the vines. So I thought I'd take you back in time a little bit here. So I've been looking at in our garage, and look what I found. So can you see that? So this is what they would used to put on their backs, and it weighs a ton. Like already it weighs approximately, I don't know, 10 kilos, it feels like it, and that's without any mixture in it. So but before that, so we'll come back to the machine in a minute, the high-tech machine here, but this, can you see these? This would be the first way that farmers in Tuchan used to put Bouillie Bordelaise onto the vines. My arms aren't long enough perhaps to show you, but can you get that? This is actually some broom that I picked this morning, and what farmers would do, they'd dip it in the bucket of their Bordeaux mixture, and then they'd literally sort of like anointing the vines like this. I hope you can get the idea. So they would walk along the vines, see if I can do this. They'd dip it in the Bordeaux mixture, and then literally they'd walk along anointing each vine. So I can see that would probably take quite a long time. So in Tuchan they were really happy when this was invented. So this is a pulvé, I can never say this one, a pulvé. In English, in French we say a pulvé because it's lots easier to say. So it's actually got a little pump on the side here. So this is a pump that you work with the handle here. And the pump means that you then get the spray coming out of the tube on this side. So there's normally like a lance on the end of this. And that means that you can actually get a lovely fine spray down your on each vine, and you can actually walk a lot quicker and cover more ground. So on average, you could do about 10,000 vines a day with the backpack. Following the backpack, they actually had a similar machine, but actually on a trailer, so a horse-driven trailer. And it's actually the wheels that went round that created the pressure for to spray the vines. So amazed, and we're going to see Roger probably on Friday. I'm going to be asking him about that and if he remembers actually using that. Now, actually, I don't need to ask Roger because Jean-Marc already told me this morning that he remembers using this in his vineyard. Right, so we're almost up to time. Let's have a look at your questions. Here we are. Yeah. So nowadays, just to bring you back, we don't use this anymore, just to reassure you, especially Matt there. We don't use this anymore. We actually use, well, on the back of the tractor, if you can get tractors into the vineyard, so if they're not planted a horse width apart, we actually have a bigger spray machine on the back of the tractor today. Right. So generally in a bad year, well, no, let's talk about good years. In a good year, you'd spray about 4 times a year here in this area, and that's not much basically. And some years we don't spray at all for mildew. In a bad year like this year, we are in, I think we've done 4, 5, perhaps even 6 times already to try and calm down and to prevent it spreading. We're organic, so we are limited in the amount of copper that we can use. Obviously too much copper is not good, and so we're limited to 4 kilos per hectare per year, and that is an average over 7 years. So there is a limit on how much we can use, but it does mean in a bad year you can actually get out and spray the vines. Right, let's have a look here. Lots of questions. So a question from Lisa. Don't you have to remove the mildewed leaves? Yeah, a very good point. It's good to remove them. Now the vines are protected. The grapes have passed that very sensitive stage where they could get mildew. So yes, I should have been taking those off the leaf. Thanks, Lisa. Don't tell Jean-Marc I didn't take them off. And another thing is you should burn them afterwards, or make sure that you do get rid of them for next year, because mildew can actually stay on the leaves, and it can germinate, or is that the word? It can start again the following year when the conditions are right. It can actually come up from the leaves if they're still in the vineyard. Liam, you asked the same question. Oh no, everybody's saying, why didn't you take the leaves off? I feel really bad now that I didn't remove those leaves. Adrian says copper sulfate is quite poisonous. How do you ensure it does not affect the grapes? So by the time we harvest, it's obviously very, very controlled. Like I said, there is a limited quantity that we can use on the grapes. Also, you're not allowed to use it. I think legally it's 4 weeks before you harvest, so you have to make sure that it's come off the grapes 4 weeks before you harvest, but we would be like 6 weeks before we harvest. We would not be using that to ensure that there are no traces on the grapes. And in actual fact, at Domaine Jones, but don't tell anybody, at Domaine Jones we actually wash the grapes when they come in, because we just want no residue at all on our grapes. So the law guarantees that if you stop spraying 4 weeks before harvest, that is the legal requirement. I will check on that. I think it's 4 weeks, but we're at Domaine Jones, we actually wash the grapes when they come in to the winery, just to remove any traces. I'm going to say bye everybody, take care, have a happy Monday, and I'll see you tomorrow.